It sounds overly simple, but the only way you can gain trust is by being trustworthy. Trust isn't a birthright, it's earned. Trust is the basis for culture, teamwork, personal well being, and relationships. Trust and respect are the bedrock of any positive relationship. And as we get bigger, more bureaucratic, and pulled in more directions, relationships become more important than ever. There's a significant body of science on trust. So often when we talk about trust, we focus on how we can gain it from others. This misses the fact that trust is bidirectional and reciprocal. Research shows that the more you trust someone and act accordingly, the more likely they are to trust you in return. To increase trust within your workplace, you need to shift your focus to signaling your own trustworthiness. It works a lot like gaining respect. It is most critical that you show it before trying to receive it. Signaling your own trustworthiness is one of the few things you have absolute control over. When people trust you, you are creating a more stable and certain work environment. And the more trust people place in you, the less likely they will be to betray your trust. Across substantial research on change, one message comes through clearly. The best way to create lasting change is through repeated, small, reinforcing steps. Building trust is no exception. It requires evidence and reinforcement. As it turns out, there's more than one type of trust. Here, we'll discuss 4 types that you'll see as part of our professional lives. The first is personal trust. We're all pretty familiar with this one. Personal trust is characterized by respect, competency, reliability, integrity, credibility, fairness, transparency. The second type of trust we'll call partnership trust. In the provider setting, I've also called this clinical trust. Partnership trust refers to working relationships amongst team members and between business partners and vendors. You need to be able to trust the people and companies working with you and supporting you. It's based on things like professional competency, professionalism, communication, defined roles and scope of practice, accountability, and resource allocation. Examples of partnership trust include working with an experienced ICU nurse with a compassionate bedside demeanor, or an IT company that supports a case management system for a health plan, or public relations company helping a health system build a communications plan during the pandemic. The third type of trust is strategic trust. As its name implies, strategic trust is when people within an organization believe that the current strategy is correct or the best bet, and that the organization can actually execute the strategy. In other words, as Will Rogers used to say, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. And our fourth type of trust is organizational trust. We'll spend most of our remaining time here. Organizational trust refers to a belief in the way things are being done, that the organization is what it says it is. Organizational trust is characterized by consistent alignment between espoused values and how things play out in daily life. Processes that are just and fair, decisions that are made based on merit, open and honest communication, and genuine concern for employees. What's interesting about organizational trust is that you may have situations where all the other types of trust exist and still not have organizational trust. Can you imagine a situation where someone tells you, hey, I trust you, but I don't trust this organization? Or perhaps they say, I fully believe our strategy is absolutely the best bet, but how we're getting there is just not something I can support. Let me share with you a few examples of times or places where there seemed to be a shortfall of organizational trust. These are taken from groups of people I've worked with in the past in other organizations as well as my own. I have no idea how decisions are made. Are they based on politics or on the merits? Leaders don't acknowledge what they hear from others. They only give their own points of view. The company talks about confidentiality all the time, but it's really about secrecy. It's like they want to keep us in the dark. The communications I get use such vague language to describe problems. They try so hard to be politically correct, and there's no meaning left to what I'm hearing. Upper management has no idea what my reality is. Setting totally unrealistic expectations is par for the course. We work in silos. They are built and maintained with extreme care, even though we hear all the time about how we need to break down those silos. It's very hypocritical. There are too many meetings and not enough action. We say we are patient-centered, but we are definitely not putting patients in the center. So how do we build more organizational trust? Let's break it down into 5 actions. The first is vulnerability. Every so often, you'll be faced with a hard truth about the organization. Maybe it's about stress and burnout of your team. Maybe it's about poor communication between departments. Whatever it is, by virtue of the fact that you are hearing about it, makes you really vulnerable. Why? Because from here, you can only go one of 2 ways. 1, do something about it and you'll gain trust. Or 2, pay lip service and move on, and you'll definitely erode trust. The choice is yours. Next action is demonstrating consistent values. This one is very challenging. It means ensuring that your decisions and behavior are completely in line with the values of the organization. It means you explicitly state decisions and actions in the context of core values, which gives everyone a deeper meaning and rationale. When values are simply espoused, but they aren't followed by actions, they become empty and meaningless. Being consistent with values is essential for avoiding disengagement, burnout, and attrition. There's no surer path to a disillusioned workforce than the perception that those in charge are hypocrites. Third action, and I know you were waiting for this one, communication. We all know in the absence of communication, people will create their own reality and then share that alternate reality with others, who will then pass it along with their own editorial, and so on and so on. It's not that leaders don't know how important it is to communicate clearly and regularly, especially when things are changing, but there is often a gap between knowing and doing. Furthermore, as things are in a constant state of flux, leaders need to be mindful about communicating things that aren't changing. I've been through 3 different mergers with 3 different organizations. These are high-intensity, highly emotional situations. It became clear to me very quickly that communications coming from the CEO were not nearly comprehensive enough during these times, and nor were they meant to be. So I would schedule a weekly meeting with my entire team to provide updates, which included restating things that were both known and unknown. No question was taboo, and there were some great questions. If I could answer them, I would. If I didn't know the answer, I would go and find out or say, I don't know. And if I knew the answer but couldn't share because of confidentiality, I'd say so. I would also call impromptu meetings if there was new information freshly available. I'd also do this if I caught wind of rumors that needed to be addressed. Given that trust depends so heavily on predictability, leaders must recognize the critical importance of helping employees understand what they can count on. Doing so reduces uncertainty and creates a needed sense of stability. 3 more tips on trustworthy communication. 1, be balanced in presentations by stating positives and negatives up front. 2, regularly communicate the work being done on known problems. Even if there are no updates, take the time to restate where things stand. And 3, stop having inside jokes with others. It makes people believe they're on the outside and that there are things you might be hiding. The 4th action to build organizational trust is decision making. You need to know what decisions you are authorized to make. Ask your boss, and then get clear about the decision-making process for other issues that affect you. Who makes them? And with all decision-making, you should expect to provide and receive the rationale for decisions being made. Above all, people just want to be treated fairly. And if decisions are not what people hope for, they will be far more accepting if they understand why decisions are being made. For the 5th and final action, I'd like to speak directly to management. It's about responsiveness. It's about telling people what you heard from them, what you'll do about it, and then what you did. It's about increased personal contact and visibility to bridge a perceived gap that may exist that management doesn't understand my reality. This actually leads us to a 5th kind of trust. I know I started out by saying we'd cover 4 types of trust, but this is like a double bonus extra trust. This is trust coming from management. It means going beyond responsiveness, beyond personal contact and visibility. What I'm referring to is management's trust in the healthcare workforce. What does that look like? It means that leaders are willing to re-envision the role of the workforce and invest in retraining the workforce, thereby embracing them as citizens of improvement in their own work. If we want better results, we have to change the system. And the only way to do this is to harness the imagination and participation of the workforce. Imagine the power that can be harnessed if you have 100, 1,000, or 10,000 empowered problem solvers on your team. Imagine what training and entrusting your frontline staff to become change agents could do for the organization. Your embrace of seeing people as a leadership asset and investing in their professional development is a vital gesture of trust in the healthcare workforce. And by the way, how far do you think this would go in building organizational trust in return?